Blue Lock Chapter 328 has just released. Isagi and Ego continue their one-on-one talk as both tell each other their philosophies and thoughts on the Nigeria game. The father and son are finally bonding. Isagi proclaims he'll be the best, and we even get a flashback to Ego's past and a little backstory for him. Y'all, we've been waiting so long for this. The first time in Blue Lock history Ego's backstory has been mentioned, so let's jump into it quick. The chapter picks up right where we left off. We see Ego and Isagi standing side by side as Isagi asks Ego straight up, what is it? What does he want to talk about? Ego doesn't even spare a passing glance at bro as they go up the elevator, and he asks Isagi at the end of the game what was his intention with that last play. And just a look at the state of this elevator. This is something you'd see in the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. No wonder why Baratsutsu's so damn greedy. They really spent all their money on this stuff. Isagi responds saying that he just aimed for his own goal as an egoist. He simply did what was natural, even having some thoughts questioning if Ego is angry. However, that's not the case because Ego just says, yeah, with the win already guaranteed by an overwhelming lead, it was a good moment to test out an idea, a new way of thinking. So Isagi's not gonna get the belt, y'all. This response does make a lot of sense. There is no world where Ego would be mad at Isagi for that play. As funny as all the Isagi is cooked memes were. We see the elevator open and Ego warns Isagi if that gameplay keeps continuing, it will create confusion even for teammates who aren't able to respond to it. And Blue Lock's formation and tactics will collapse. I just know the Isagi haters were waiting for this moment. Like they're jumping for joy at the thought of Isagi causing Blue Lock's formation to collapse. Ego tells him that method is only a sub-weapon or secondary tactic to use when you have room to spare. Don't make a way of winning that has no reproducibility on his main axis. In other words, Ego is telling him to not pull a nagi seishiro and keep winning with no reproducibility, which he's also been proclaiming since the dawn of time, literally the start of Blue Lock. Isagi immediately apologizes and says he thinks he understands that. In the corner though, he says, but coach, as the next page reveals them at the top of the Blue Lock facility overlooking the city. And this view is absolutely beautiful, but more importantly, Isagi says, beating Noel, he feels like he's close to finding the theory where Isagi Yoichi, become the best in the world. That's our GOAT saying he's gonna be the #1. But we're not done yet, folks, because Ego just says, huh, and Isagi's aura pops up as he tells Ego to his face, that's why his football alone is no longer enough for me. Yo, Isagi, ain't no way he's telling that straight to bro's face. The first time was so nice, he had to do it twice. You could just feel the aura through the screen. Bro's quite literally telling his coach he ain't enough for him, on top of saying he's close to finding a theory where he beats the #1 player and becomes the best in the world. The Isagi fans are geeking right now, and just look at Ego's eyes, bruh. He really about to push Isagi off the edge. He brought him up here for a reason, man. Anyways, Isagi quickly realizes he's on top of Blue Lock and says it's so high and the view is crazy. Bro is also in shorts and a sleeveless shirt. I just know he is shivering up there. Props to Isagi, bro, because how is he not commenting about how it's cold? This is the same energy as the homies who come to school in the winter with shorts and a tee. Ego tells him that it's an emergency evacuation area and to not get excited. Okay, I don't know how this is an emergency evacuation area. Are they gonna pull a Shido and skydive off the building? Ego then continues saying that if he's that confident, show him the theory that will let Isagi surpass him. And just look at Isagi. He already sweating bullets though. He just realized he entered the lion's den, and with zero hesitation, bro tells Ego he's not denying him, bringing up that he sent Isagi those super play highlight videos, referring to his 44-day training. He says that when he watched it, he realized something. It expanded his vision/imagination, but there's a limit to what he can reach with his own power, even if he spent his entire life. He then brings up Loki, Lorenzo, and and Kaiser, saying that fighting guys like them, maybe he could win a single play or a single match, but objectively, there's no way he's better than them individually. Kaneshiro must have heard all the Lorenzo backlash when he didn't appear in the new Gen 11 chapter, and to prove he wasn't erased from history, he had to put my goat back in the manga, which is nice to see. Isagi continues that beating Noel Noah with physical ability alone, even if he was reborn a million times, it's 100% impossible. But now that he's realized that, he can finally accept it and see what he's still lacking. Isagi hits the hands out pose that he always done when he starts yapping, so just know we're about to get some D1 Shakespeare-awe dialogue. He finally tells Ego about his discovery of genius and talented learners, that humans fall under those two categories, and not that one is better than the other, both push each other and evolve together. Ego this whole time is just ears wide open and not saying anything, he pulling that red from Pokemon dialogue. Although we as readers know about the whole talented learner and genius philosophy, this is the first time Isagi is telling Ego this, so he repeats how if they're at a similar level and compete and challenge each other, they can keep growing endlessly. And with that limitless evolution, they could eventually become the best in the world. So a lot of information at once. I told y'all when Isagi hits this pose, we're about to get a storm of information. Isagi isn't done yet, telling Ego one more thing. That's exactly why he has to keep being the kind of elite player who makes Rin, Bachira, no, every genius in Blue Lock want to surpass him. As we see Shido, Atoya, Barou, Rin, and Bachira's shadow. Man, who invited Atoya to this flashback, dog? We got the top strikers in Blue Lock, and then Atoya is just here? I do know he's a genius and actually performed pretty well in the NEL, but still, it's funny to see him here. And also, yet again, Kunigami stay getting shafted. Like, they never show bro in any of these flashbacks. Never give bro any development. Never even showed the wild card yet. Kunigami fans are drowning in an indescribable emptiness. Isagi, smiling from ear to ear, tells Ego that's why he needs to give him more football, more stimulation. He will become the best in the world and prove it. Yeah, baby, that's what we like to hear from our boy. And to break this down a little bit, Isagi is basically evolving others so that he can evolve too. He did this in Ubers with Hiyori, hell, the whole NEL, honestly, and obviously with the Nigeria game. However, Ego hits him with the fattest side eye in history, and low-key, I can't tell if bro thinks Isagi is getting too greedy, or if he's impressed or whatnot. He just tells Isagi, does he think a god of football actually exists? This takes Isagi off guard, hitting him with the huh, and references Zico and Maradona. But Ego just tells him, nah, he's talking about something more unscientific, something invisible, which confuses Isagi and says he doesn't really get it, thinking in his mind that he didn't expect the logical Ego to be talking about mystical stuff like that. Ego then explains that it's the result of perfecting your thoughts and effort, where your body and mind totally sync up. Luck, the environment, everything just goes exactly how you want it, and it feels like something beyond your control is guiding your destiny. A godlike experience of total omnipotence. While Ego is talking, we see a jersey with the number of 11, as the next page shows Ego Jinpachi as a player with the god of football on his back. Oh my god. Sound the alerts. Tell your grandma and friends. Jinpachi Ego's past is finally in the manga. I was starting to give up hope at this point of seeing this happening. This is the first time in a Blue Lock manga history we've seen a flashback of Ego's past, which is actually crazy to think about, 7 years in the making for this. I could actually shed a tear. Bro even got some serious leg gains and a longer hair. The bowl cut wasn't a thing. And I like how Ego shares the exact same jersey number as Isagi. Bro somehow handed it down to him like goddamn a one for all. Maybe they really are father and son. They think the same, they have the same jersey number. Isagi's mom got some explaining to do. Anyways, Ego talks about how when he was an active player, he actually encountered it. 7 minutes, that was the only time, never before or since. Back then, he had to think some invisible force was at work to make sense of the inexplicable performance he pulled off. And this got me really curious. Bro played so good The only possible explanation was that God helped him. Isagi asks if this is different from flow or the luck equation, and Ego responds that those are things that he derived from that experience in order to learn and reproduce it. He then says, "Answer me, Isagi Yoichi, do you think a god of football exists?" As it zooms in on Isagi's eyes, and he responds that if that invisible power was thanks to God, then maybe he does exist. Isagi continues that ever since coming to Blue Lock, the fact that he first met Bachira, and in the U20 match at the very end, the ball fell down to where he was, those type of things. Which this is honestly kind of funny. Isagi is self-aware of the plot armor of getting the ball last second. And can we also just talk about the genius writing of Kaneshiro? He somehow wrote plot armor to be canon with the chapter about God. Using his example of the final goal he scored in the Neo Egoist League, he says he feels like in those moments, the god of football was telling him to set his sights on becoming the world's best. Ego just says, "I see, maybe so," and Isagi says, "Let me ask you something." Isagi then asks Ego, "When you were active, what kind of player were you?" Ego gives him the silent treatment and says, "Just like you, I was a dreamer with a head full of ideas." But Ego tells Isagi that God won't help him anymore, and that's why he quit football in the first place. You know it's serious when even the text boxes are blacked out. Isagi seems to be shocked, and Ego realizes he told Isagi too much dad lore and says their discussion ended a while ago, let's go. It's kinda cool to see Ego open up for the first time, even though it was a small glimpse of his past. I really do hope we get to see more, or maybe how he played, because I'm still curious about those 7 minutes of godly football. Before they can leave though, Isagi tells Ego, "Then please watch me, coach," as Ego turns his head back around. We get a double spread of Isagi and Ego looking at each other as Isagi smiles and tells him he'll meet the god of football himself. Yo, this panel is actually peak. No other words can describe this. The student and the master staring at each other, having their first one-on-one conversation with the stars in the background. This just makes me so happy, bro. The next page, Isagi is standing there aura farming, telling Ego, "This Isagi Yoichi you gave birth to is going to make your dream come true," with even a shooting star in the background. This scene looking straight at Your Name, and my boy Isagi gonna fulfill that dream for Ego. That's so damn hype. All of the Isagi fans are eating good from this chapter. Ego in response just says, "Try to surpass me, Isagi Yoichi, surpass my vision," as the chapter ends off there. We are eating so good, folks. This chapter from start to finish was just so peak. If you're an Isagi fan, of course you'll love it. And just as a Blue Lock fan in general, we finally got a reference to Ego's past. There was literally so much to talk about, so let's start with the biggest thing in this chapter, of course, Ego's previous time as a player. We now know a few things, including his design and aura, which if you look closely is actually a 3-legged crow, which you can see on the Japanese Football Association logo. So of course, I think that's gonna have a deeper meaning to Ego in some sort of way. It isn't a fallen angel, which would have been cool too. One more thing we know is obviously Ego points out that God won't help him anymore, and that's why he quit football in the first place. That's probably gonna play a huge role for the rest of his backstory if it eventually gets revealed. His whole conversation was around the aspect of reproducibility. He mentioned it at the start of the chapter with Isagi, and then he said flow state and luck, those equations came from trying to reproduce that play. It makes a lot of sense. He's always talking about reproducibility and making sure that your goals aren't just miracles. It's also why he had a lot to say after Nagi's elimination. With the whole back and forth with Ryo saying he can't reproduce that 5-shot goal, he was satisfied. Even when he first saw that goal, he said the depths of his ego were going to be tested. And then obviously with Yuki Miya saying that he was glad he didn't score against Chris Prince or against Manshine. All of that was because he wasn't able to reproduce that goal. There's been a lot of discussion from this chapter about how Ego kind of parallels Nagi. They had one really good play and couldn't reproduce it. I honestly think there's a lot more depth to it though. I do have a lot to yap about and say say for the Ego, Nagi, and Isagi parallel, but I'll save that for a separate video. Otherwise, this is going to turn into a whole theory. Let's talk a little bit about Isagi because he had a big role in this chapter too, with him finally explaining the talented learner and genius theory to Ego, as well as proclaiming he'll be the best. Of course, if you're an Isagi fan, you just love to see it, and this was just Isagi standing on business in the best way possible. Now, Ego, he didn't really seem to drop his opinion on Isagi's theory. Like, he gave a very open answer, nothing negative, nothing positive, not even any feedback. He just said, try to surpass me, Isagi Yoichi. Which is why there is two interpretations you can get from this chapter. One, Isagi is gonna keep evolving and prove Ego his theory is right. Or two, that greed might consume him and Isagi might be getting humbled really soon. The talk of the town right now is that Isagi is gonna get humbled. He's been on a winning streak for too long. Loki and Yugo are gunning for him in the next game too, which makes me all the more excited for the France match and just the other games that we're gonna see in the U20 World Cup. Like, after this chapter, Isagi is on demon time, so how will he do during France? But with this chapter, it's kind of building up Isagi as a character that won't let himself get humbled or won't let that happen. I don't know, it's all up in the air right now. Like I said, I just can't wait to see the France match. And speaking of France, let's talk about the next chapter and just the upcoming chapters in general, because the schedule is kind of whack right now. Chapter 329 is titled Don't Run Away. And just a disclaimer, next week is a break week, so no new chapter. I'll throw up a picture of the schedule on screen, but we'll be getting this chapter in 2 weeks time. And then after that, another break. And then we're back to our regular schedule. This is just because all of the holidays and magazine breaks and whatnot. But I mean, Kaneshiro has been riding peak so far, so they deserve the break. We have gotten a little synopsis or leak for chapter 329, which says all countries are done with the first round, which means we're gonna see the results of every match and country that's important to the story. So Loki and France against England, Kaiser with Germany, Bunny with Spain, maybe even Lorenzo makes an appearance again. And I'm super excited for that. Next chapter is actually gonna be insane if that happens. Imagine we see Loki or Kaiser with a drastic score difference between their countries. Don't Run Away could be one of the characters saying that to Isagi specifically too. I will say though, take that all with a grain of salt because it was just a leak. We don't know for sure what's gonna happen. As time gets closer though, we'll probably get it more confirmed. I saw a lot of people also theorize saying this chapter could be about side B because last chapter was a cliffhanger and we didn't see it at all in this chapter. I was honestly surprised we didn't see any of it. I thought for sure it was gonna tie in with the whole God theme of this chapter since Nagi refers to himself as God before. The only thing I don't want is for side B to be off screen, but it's looking more and more likely that that's the case. We've seen this before with the wild card too, and it didn't even show up in this chapter. It sucks because the last chapter we got into the good parts of the selection just to not see it in this chapter. They're actually playing the game and they explained it with no other context, but we don't know for sure. Next chapter could include both of those, so I'm still holding on to hope. That would be an amazing chapter if it included both side B and the other games wrapping up, even though we are getting a lot of breaks. Regardless though, Kaneshiro has been cooking so hard after the Nigeria game. Like, every single chapter has been so exciting, especially because Nigeria was known to be boring week to week. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I know a lot of people didn't really like it. But with the new Gen 11s showing up, Nagi and hell, even Kira making appearances, and of course Ego's past being revealed too, it's just been straight 10 out of 10 chapters. It's a perfect time to be a Blue Lock fan. You got the holidays around the corner, the France match on the horizon too, so make sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with everything Blue Lock. Shameless plug aside, that wraps it up for this video. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching as always. YouTube really thinks you like this video right here, so be sure to check that one out too. I appreciate y'all so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one.